Hello, this is Multitude. This is the first time I'm making a voice recording, so bear with my scuffed microphone, but I wanted to show off this build showcase that I kind of promised the community of Dead Rabbit that I would do. I've been talking a bit with Blade Zero and talking about the idea of using Glory for a build based on some of the new stuff that was released in 2.4, and I think I have something now that I'm pretty happy with. There's a lot of room for improvement, and probably other versions of this build that can be done, but this is something that I particularly enjoy playing, and I think is kind of cool, having done before, so here goes nothing. Alright, so the concept of the build was kind of based on the new additions to the Hateforge gloves, which now can grant you up to 12 maximum rage whenever you use a skill that requires glory, and that buff lasts for 6 seconds and it stacks up to 5 times, meaning you could get what is that, the 60 max rage, which is a lot of damage. That's 200% more than the baseline of rage, which usually goes up to 30, so you would end up at 90 if you can do that. Also get a bunch of increased attack speed, and it has gain rage on hit, which is the only place in the game where you have gain rage on hit and not melee hit. I'm fairly certain this works on ranged weapons and spells as well. Not something I've tested too thoroughly, as I focused on melee builds for now. Then it also has gain a random charge on reaching maximum rage no more than once per 3 to 6 seconds, which for any build that uses charges could be really useful, but always if you just have charge regulation, those are a huge amount of buff you could get from charges, which I'll get a bit more into. So that was one part of the build. So okay, how do we use glory? Well, there's only currently 4 glory skills in the game, one of them being Hem of the Guards, and then there's the War Cry, then there's new Bear skill, and then there's this Spear Solaris for the spears. And I found none of those to actually work particularly well for me. However, this new skill gem, or lineage support, was introduced, Seraph's Infamy, which turns any I believe attack skill or war cry skill, which is not entirely true, it doesn't suck into a lot of stuff, but at least attack skill into a glory spender requiring 50 glory, and that glory is kind of gained from 5% of the life spent, meaning if you spend 100 life, you gain 5 glory, and you need 50 glory, so you need to spend 1,000 life to essentially do that. In return, well, you gain increased area of effect and more damage, and quite a lot of it, in fact 50% more. So that kind of allows you to use a lot other skills than the usual glory spenders to combine with the Hateforged. On top of this concept that I wanted to test, there's also this nice notable which gives you +8 and basically does the exact same as the Hateforged. And if you're able to get those 5 stacks, well, effectively you'll get another 100 max rage, which for anyone who doesn't know how rage works, so every rage gives you 1% more attack damage, so with 100 more you would double your attack damage. It's 100% more, and that's just from these two, like the notable and the gloves. Then you also have 30 from the baseline of rage, and then you can gain a bunch of more max rage elsewhere. Then we also got a lot of new things that actually interact really well with rage. One of them being another lineage, Bartea's Vengeance, which gives you 1% of cold or damage as cold damage per rage that you have. So the more rage, the more damage this gives you as well. Even more things that flood into this. You have Bestial Rage, which gives you 12% increased physical damage every 10 rage. You can even go the route which I think King Conqueror is doing on his wolf build, where he's doing every rage also grants you 2% increased spell damage, so that's actually like double. Like with 100 rage you get 200% spell damage, and then you can use Crown of Ice to combine that into, or turn that into attack damage as well. So a lot of interaction with rage where it can really scale a lot. So I needed to spend a lot of glory, and I want a lot of rage, and I figured that spending 1,000 life to actually successfully be able to trigger these skills was a lot. 1,000 life is like a third of my health pool, and not a lot of builds actually have more than 3,000 unless they invest heavily into it. And we are giving up our glove socket already, which could be a huge source of health to have the hate forge, so I didn't feel like going into health was really a viable option. So I went with a Titan, not only because Warrior is basically the only class that I play, but also because we are very stat hungry. And one thing that the Titan does have access to is glory generation. There's a bunch of it all the way up here. We have 22%. This usually is 15, but get increased by the ascendancy of 50% increased effect of small passive skills. We have more down here, glory generation. We have more over here, so a lot of it. And effectively, if you have 100 glory generation, well, now you need to spend 500 life. If you have more than that, then it becomes even less. Further feeding into the concept. Now, playing around with it, I figured there's even more power we can gain from the Berserk node, which is a scary thing to play with. But effectively, you gain 69 increase effective rage. I only have this skill level at 14 right now because I'm kind of short on attributes. Still, it means that we can multiply the rage that we kind of have and its effect. I can tell you right now that I'm able to reach 169. That's definitely not the maximum you can get, but if we take that and multiply by 1.7, which is what again, we are basically getting 287 more attack damage from rage. Now, one thing I don't know is whether additional rage effects also get affected by that. Like, do we gain 70% of 12% more increase per 10? Does that also stack with mystical rage? Does that also stack with the armor you get from here? Like, there's various notables that makes it so that rage also gives you other things. And I don't know whether the Berserk is only scaling the base effect of rage or any of the additional ones too, I must admit, and could be cool to get verified somehow. Alright, the big downside of Berserk, of course, is that you lose Super 1 of your maximum life per rage per second while not losing rage, and I think that while not losing rage is important. Basically, it means that while you're gaining rage or in the small time period where you do not lose rage after having gained some, you will take a lot of damage because, as I said, I'm able to reach a sweet 169 maximum rage, so that's effectively 17% of your maximum life that you lose per second, so you die in 5 seconds. Unless you can sustain it. Also, that while not losing rage is kind of making me not big into this unforgiving and the other things that makes it so that rage loss starts later, because we can gain rage really quickly, and I'd rather just not die. So I'm kind of allowing my rage to go down so that I don't start I will stop losing health quicker. But it is a bit of stuff we're giving up. There's some maximum rage we could get here as well, which we're basically not utilizing at the moment. But that's a massive power boost. And how are we dealing with that? Well, leech is of course one thing that we could do. We could do health regen, although 17% is a lot, and that's just to sustain it. But what I found is that we have this nice little notable here that recovers 1% of your maximum life per glory consumed, meaning that whenever we use a skill that have this Seraphis Infamy, we gain half of our life back. And we use this a lot, meaning that we go to 100% a lot of the time. To combine with this, and for more survivability, kind of layering it, I have been combining it with Soul Tether, and removing the thing that makes you lose energy shield through cultivation. And then excess life recovery from leech is applied to energy shield, meaning whenever we use a glory spender, and most of the time go to 100% life because of it, we are also leeching, and that leech basically overflows into the energy shield, which I found to happen even more easily. So if you have fast metabolism, although I do think it's very inconsistent. So the full value of it, I don't know. And we could use Headhunter. Like if I use Headhunter, this build is absolutely cracked. And yeah, in my opinion, just not too fun. I think it kind of takes a lot of the identity away. Whenever you have a Headhunter, everything kind of just becomes the same and explodes. So for now, I'm not showcasing that. I might even have sold it. Well, so that allows us to gain a bunch of power from Berserk and heal ourselves like a ton from this. And while we're kind of losing life all the time from Berserk, our life can still recharge, and we can make attacks that go to 100%. Then the leech goes into the Ender Shield, and then you can continue losing life from Berserk or right after that as well. Kind of factors of life going down and Ender Shield going up, playing kind of all the time. And I would say that's the core concept of the build. I think I would like to show just a bit of map gameplay, and then I deal with a boss, maybe in the end, and then I'll kind of go over a bit of the gems, the stats, the gear, and then talk a bit about other stuff that I kind of found while playing with this build concept. Hello, can I get up? There we go. Alright. Maybe before I go into the map, I can explain a bit of just how it works. So the core concept basically is that we want to leech, which we don't do a lot from our other abilities because they deal a lot of cold damage. We get a lot of cold damage from Lunar Blessing, we get a lot of cold damage from Barta's Vengeance, we get a lot from Herald of Ice, Lunar Assault, which is the only of the skills here that don't have a cooldown actually. Is mostly cold damage, meaning it doesn't leech, and we want to leech. We also want as much mobility as possible, so therefore I found that actually using Shred is our best source of just damage and kind of moving around. And then the problem with Shred is that, well, it doesn't spend any life. So spec into War Cries, which I have a weapon set to, and that allows me to generate a lot of rage as well as spend life at the same time, buff myself, debuff the enemies. So how we're essentially playing is that we're shredding, shouting, kind of back and forth, and then using our glory spenders and kind of weaving in. And when the nice thing, maybe I should actually mention that, is that I ended up using the Solus Ibs helmet, which has a lot of potential. As it allows you to use 2 additional copies of each lineage support name in different skills, which is what it's allowing me to use the Surface Infamy in 1, 2, 3 skills. It will even allow me to also use the Garokan's Resolve, which right now I only have on Shred, and I think that could be a massive power boost to also have on any of the other skills. As for damage, I'm skating crit, as there's a lot of crit available in the kind of strength and Dex Intelligence left side of the tree. And I'm a Titan, so I'm scaling that even more so. So we can have Garokan's Resolve in all the abilities. We can use Rakiatas, maybe both in Lunar Assault, Lunar Blessing, Herald of Ice even. And then for all of the skill gems, of which I have a lot and get into later, we could use all the Uthreads, etc. But yeah, so I'm using 3 of the Seraphies, and what becomes really nice there is that whenever we use one of them, so we spend 1 here, we use the next, it feeds back into the others, and then we use a bit of War Cries, and then kind of shredding around, War Crying, spending the skills. It's kind of how we're playing the build. Yeah, let's play on map. So what do we have here? This one does have, it steals the charges, which is a bit of a downside, but we should be able to handle it anyway. Oh, we have a nice little sandspit here. Why don't we check that? See, no delirium, okay. So we're just gonna shred, shout a little, and then effectively we get going. As you can see here, whenever I'm kind of not fighting and spending my glory spenders, if I back off here for a moment, the Berserk is kind of taking me down to about half life. Then I start losing rage, and then it goes up again. I can use a potion, which I definitely think is worth actually getting one with high amounts, because you just kind of need to use one and you get that half life back. Or you can just use any of your glory spenders, and your life will kind of constantly go back up. I will say, because you're a melee, it is, in my opinion, definitely worth going into some defenses in terms of armor, as well as the energy shield. And oh, we have the boss already. We can show that. Because you are going to get hit. And I think that, as with most builds, it's definitely true that good offense is your best defense. Like, you need to kill stuff, otherwise you're gonna die. But the armor helps with the big hits. The leech kind of making sure, as well as the recovery from glory, definitely make sure that you're at max health as much of the time as possible. As with the updates to enemy effectiveness, there's some really tough hits that you can take this league, especially from delirium monsters.
I need more time.
Take a shrine here. And you can imagine, if I had Header Hunt on right now, I would have like 20 whatnot buffs on me. My AoE would be double. I would be breaking even more ammo. I would have 3000 in the shield. Yeah, like it would be absolutely cracked. I just don't find it too fun. One thing is hitting the teleport, but it's also like I barely get to play the build, is what I feel like, and I don't really need it. And I think it removes a lot of the uniqueness, but you can completely fine if you want to. I just don't. Okay, let's go do the boss.
I can't yet.
So for bossing, we kind of want to do the same thing. Like, it's a good mix of using shred as much as possible, because that's your main source of damage and leeching. You want to use your shout because it gives you rage, as well as it gives you glory, when it's good to kind of weave in between your glory skills. But then you're not going to one-shot things the same way you are with packs. And I found that the best combo you kind of want to do is that you want to kind of do the same as you do against monsters until the boss is frozen. Then you want to kind of just spam your Warcry, which will apply a bunch of buffs to you and debuffs to the enemy, notably critical weakness from the Howling Beast, which lasts for like 4 seconds. And you have a use time of less than 0.2 whenever you have a frenzy charge due to the charge regulation, and you get that frenzy charge on the freeze, so you kind of just spam them there and get something like 10 stacks. I don't think it's really worth counting, just like maybe like 2 seconds should be fine, and then they have like at least 8 what is critical weakness on them, and you will crit a lot. They're frozen, so you spam that, then you spam shred to deal a lot of damage and spawn all the ice shards, and you finish off with like cross slash. Now, do take that with a grain of salt, as the bosses might die before, and you kind of have the factor of, if you stop using your other glory skills, you will kind of have less maximum rage and then also deal less damage. So that, like, there's a combo that you can kind of throw off at some times, but there's so many things at play that I don't know if that's always fully working. So it's a bit of spam, and then if they're frozen, then do your thing. All right, let's go in. Fight the shark. Shark versus wolf. Live action. Okay. Yeah, this is why this is like the worst boss. Might as well spend a potion. Wait for him to come back up. Okay, might as well spend this.
I'm not ready.
There we go. It didn't even get to freeze. I think it's stunned, and then I had done a lot of shouts, a lot of shreds, cross slash, killed it. Divine for
Rarity
flex.
and all mine.
Okay, so let's go over some of the gems, the stats, the gear. I don't want to go too much into detail, but we can glance over them, and then I'll make sure to put up a Mobalytics guide as well, for any of you that do want to play this. I'm definitely considering playing it, doing the private league that Dead Rabbit and Talkative Try and Local is hosting. I think that will be a lot of fun, although this is not a build that's by any means cheap or easy to get going, so I don't think it's a league starter really, but league starting Warrior as Smith or Kitava, then going into Titan is always like a safe bet. Alright, let's start by just looking at stats. So you can see I have 3000 life, like 1000 energy shield. Ideally this can go higher. We have capped resistances, chaos could be higher. Armor, I'm at 82 right now. I would like that to go higher. It goes from like 15,000 to like 45,000 from my buffs while I'm mapping, so well over the 90% threshold, which is nice. 77% move speed. Thought I had 82, but maybe I'm missing some support for the gem enthusiast. Movement speed. And yeah, I think that's primarily... Oh yeah, I do have a lot of armor applying to elemental damage as well, as that's pretty easy to come by. I basically only have it on one of my items, and the rest is from the tree. So let's look at the gear. Hateforge is kind of like the main item, as well as Solus Ips. On the Hateforge, you want to cultivate and get rid of the lose all rage on reaching max rage. That would be really bad. And then you want the increased attack speed. It's not a must, but it's definitely nice. And then the maximum rage for each time you use a skill that requires glory is kind of like the core of this skill, or this build. I'm losing out on actually 10 maximum rage here. Can get an even better one. I do think that the gain rage and hit is massive, and I think it's actually possible to do spell versions of this build to some degree, like something that weaves in spells maybe, or even I don't know, I mentioned by using cast on crit even, or cast on ailment. I think those spells are gonna generate rage as well, which I think could be massive. Then there's the gain a random charge and reaching maximum rage. I don't think that's necessary. You could gain the maximum rage instead. Kind of up to you. Solar Sips with a Spirit, Corrupt, and a Socket is kind of the only requirement. 25 Spirit is actually enough for what I have currently. I don't actually need the 30. But that depends a little on what you have on your Morior. So on my Morior Invictus 5 sockets, I have 13 Spirit instead of the 14. If I had 14, then I would get 70 Spirit, and I only need 20 from here. Those 20 could then also be gained maybe from a ring or some other source. As much resistance and life from here as well. Then I have the Soul Tether for the energy shield recharge. I don't think this is needed. That's just what I have. If you want to get your resistances, armor, or life from a belt instead, you could just do that. I think that's a cool option if you, like me, don't like Headhunter. That will allow you to, for example, change your amulet out for a what's it called? I think it's Defiance of Destiny is also what King Conqueror is using on his wolf build, which is really cool. I took a bit of inspiration on this. He's doing something completely different than me, but he's playing a wolf as well and using the Haze Forge, but not gaining maximum rage from the glory. He's kind of using it for building rage really quickly, I believe. It has another cultivation, which is cool. Defiance of Destiny is something you get for even more survivability if you want to. I think the main downside from doing so is that you kind of lose out on your melee skills, as well as all the amazing stats you can gain from the amulet. You could even gain spirit on here. I don't really need the spell damage by any means. The melee skills will, one, of course, give you more damage, as well as make them cost more life, which feeds better into the Surface Infamy support gem. So I think that is your biggest value, in my opinion. Then I have two specifically unset rings. Again, I don't think this is a must, but you'll definitely suffer some defenses, I think is what you would go down on if you don't have it. So I'm using the unset rings to get additional skill slots, and I'm doing so because I'm already using so many skill slots on all of these three abilities, as well as the Warcry, as well as the Lunar Blessing, that in order to spend all my spirit and get the power from that, I need two more skill slots, which I think I've used for Combat Frenzy and Scavenged Plating is probably what I would sacrifice. I wouldn't get away with Time of Need. Those life bursts are really important, and removing the curses even more so. Berserking's core, all the charges from charge regulation as well. If you don't have Combat Frenzy, there are ways of gaining charges. I'm currently getting endurance charges from the support gem whenever I break armor. I would like to not put this on shred and gain something with damage in as well. Of course, Atulu slotting doesn't work because it has no life cost, but this gives me kind of no damage right on the main damage skill. So I have tried using it some of the other skills, but just find out don't have enough endurance charges, so that is why it's here. And breaking armor is really good, especially on bosses, so it's all good. Power charges I am gaining from charge perfusion, so that's just on a chance, which I kind of hate. I would prefer that I had a more consistent way of doing so, and I did used to have this combo here on Cross Slash, where I would put in the Culmination and then the Aelith Chimes, which basically makes it so when you use other attack skills you gain combo. That combo lets you gain more damage the more combo you have, and the more combo you have, the bigger the chance you are getting power charges. This, however, does not seem to work when you have Surface Infamy, or at least it works very little of the time. It doesn't really build combo the same way. You can see that this 0 down here is kind of used to indicate how much combo you have on skill. That goes away whenever you have Surface Infamy. However, I am still getting power charges sometimes, even when I don't have the charge perfusion, so something weird is going on there. So power charges, unfortunately, is something I'm not gaining as much as I'm gaining Frenzy and Endurance, which is a shame because that's 25% more critical hit chance. But as I said, the build is still kind of like, I'm still working on it. I just think that it's, as you saw in the gameplay, more than capable enough to be played right now and shared. Alright, so that's why we had the unset rings, to gain more slots, to better use the spirit. If you don't, but basically if you don't have the spirit from the Moria Invictus, I would say you can use whatever rings, and other rings are going to make it easier for you to gain more stats, of which you need a lot on this build. Lastly, boots with movement speed, then resistances, life, and then the armor also applies to elemental damage. You can go with armor and evasion boots, as I do pick up the keystone iron reflexes, mainly because we do have something like 1,500 evasion or something just from having Moria Invictus and Solus Ipswith both of them have all of the three different defenses in their base item. So that's easier to get boots, that's nice. And then lastly, a talisman. I was lucky to pick up this one, which has 3 sockets. It allowed me for a while to put spirit in here, like 15 spirit in one of the sockets. I also put Legion in here, although I do think the best thing you can do is having that on the ring. Or on the weapon in one of its suffixes is the most powerful, because it's a lot higher value and it makes it so that all of your skills are leeching. For a while I did put in the Leech 3 support gem, which basically gives you 16% leech as well as the effects of fast metabolism, which save you points, saves you a stat, but it also takes up a support gem slot. And I didn't want to put that on every single of my attacks. Ideally I would only be able to put it on shred, but there are times where you're using your other abilities so much that you want to leech from those as well, and this is what I found the most success with. Although I think it might just be up to personal preferences. But on the weapon, I used the Magi Talisman specifically because it has 12 maximum rage. The more rage the better. Then attack speed, attack skills are very important, and then as high physical damage as possible. What I am very much missing on this item and would like to swap out is both the cold damage and the life per enemy kill is completely kind of not useless to me, but I'd much rather have crit. As you can see, I have no crit on this item. I would go from like, I think it's like 40% crit that I have here, yeah, almost 40 to almost 50% whenever I change out so that I have crit on the weapon. And then the last stat, yeah, I think leech or maybe just leech would be the best thing to get here. Or no, actually the extra physical damage is something that would be great to swap out, which I think is possible. I think crit is a soft fix now. The extra physical damage will allow it so that you can actually turn your Herald of Ice into chaining with armor explosion. As right now it only deals cold damage. You will have to add some extra physical damage to it before it can actually do Herald of Ice, which works with chaining that effect for a lot more screen clear. As you see, we don't really need it. We have so much mobility and kind of AoE and different things that it's not needed, but it would be more powerful and even more damage. So I think the extra physical damage would be really good. It also, because it would even go on to things like Lunar Blessing, it would go on to the Lunar Assault, which doesn't have a lot of physical damage at the moment, and that would mean that those also leech even more. So that would be the deal. For sockets, I've thrown in more physical damage, and then increased damage against elites and uniques is optimal. In the gloves, I just have fire resistance at the moment. I'd prefer having rage on hit or attack speed. Movement speed in the boots. In the chest, I have reduced effective curses. I think this one is very valuable. While I do run Time of Need, I'm not spending any passive points on skill effect duration, mostly because that's gonna reduce how long my Lunar Blessing lasts, how long Bartos, like all of the buffs we're getting are gonna last shorter, which is bad and not fun. We still have Time of Need though. It often like it's 6.7 seconds that's gonna happen, so removes a lot of stuff from us. It makes it curses especially are a lot less annoying. However, you still end up in a situation where it just pops and then you get hit by a curse, and now you're cursed for almost 7 seconds of 30% speed reduction in Temporalis. It kills you easily. Less resistances kills you. Less damage can kill you. So I actually think that the reduced effective curses is really valuable. You can gain 3% more max life, but the truth with the max life is that it's not really helping you against Berserk, because you lose 1% of your max life. You don't live for more than 5 seconds anyway. Of course, your rage does stop generating, you start losing rage, and then you're not taking health, so it rarely kills you unless you take a big hit and you don't leech it back up, or something goes wrong. Then Berserk can kill you, and I think that happens more when you're cursed, and the maximum life is not gonna change how bad Berserk is actually for you. So it mainly makes it so that you can take bigger hits, and that the life you're kind of spending on your abilities aren't as devastating to you. So like I even considered, well, I should get rid of these 12% maximum life, but it is a lot of life. On the helmet, I actually forgot to mention this one. We have one of the ancient augments or ancient sockets, of which you can only have one, and this one actually lets you generate 15% of your maximum glory whenever your mark activates, which is actually one of the core reasons I ended up making a wolf build, because we have the pounce ability, which, well, makes you jump somewhere and then apply a mark and trigger it, and it can be whichever one you want. The freezing mark is what I found to be the best, as more freeze build-up is really good on bosses and elites, comboing with that crash slash, as well as shred. You can also, if you don't want to use the combat frenzy, you can use the mark of the range or whatever it's called, the green one, but that requires a lot more dexterity, and it just makes one of your attacks crit, and you do 4 attacks with shred, so Yeah, it gives you a frenzy charge, which is kind of nice, but I don't think it's really worth the hassle. This is a lot simpler. You just spam it, you gain more free spell up, you gain more cold damage. Yay. But this socket here, 15% of your maximum glory. I get to increase that by about 120%. I think is what I have in glory generation increases on my passive tree, which I'll get to in a second. And that means that almost half of the glory is actually built up whenever we use pounce on the other two other skills, which is another benefit of having 3 skills through the Solus Ips. So yeah, that's why I kind of ended up choosing a wolf because of that. You don't have to use it, as you like plenty of other glory generation on other skill uses. And if you don't want to use this one, there's another nice one which gives you, I think it's 2 armor per spirit, and you have to suck it into your body armor. So that would give me like 400 more base armor, which is not bad. It's definitely not bad. All right, so that was the gear and stats. I don't think I want to go further into the skill gems. I think I talked a lot about this stuff, but you're using Pounce, using Lunar Assault, and using Crosslash as your glory spenders with Seraphis Infamy. On Pounce we have like, yeah, reduced cooldown, marks can be triggered twice, and then charged mark, so we leave shock ground to deal 10% more damage on elites and bosses, which I do think is very good. As high damage and AoE, Biting Frost, so that combos with the freezing, the cross slash. Lunar Assault has Bartez Vengeance. Then I do use Ancestral Call, as I think this basically means that you make these small copies of yourself that also apply the attack. It makes it a lot bigger of an AoE attack sometimes, which it's really useful as it doesn't have as much movement as, for example, Pounce, and kind of have to weave it in with the shred as well. Maybe, yeah, it's important. The prolonged duration is important on Lunar Blessing. I do use Concentrated Area, as I don't find that the enlarging helps a lot, but 30% more damage is massive. I have cooldown recovery reduction that might actually not be necessary anymore, as I on my second weapon set are basically for shouts, which is why it's so fast and so powerful, and I'll show that in the skill tree. On Arctic Howl, we apply exposure, which is amazing. We slow ourselves less with mobility when we're using it so often. And then we're using Second Wind just to have a bigger cost multiplier. It also recovers that 1% maximum life per second of cooldown that it has. And it has, what is the cooldown, like 6 seconds. So when I use it, it actually restores 6% of my life. I do think that is not when you actually bypass that cooldown by using Rage. It was something that was fixed in 0.3, so it's only whenever it's up, but it's a nice little thing. And then we spend 15 rage to bypass the cooldown, so we can basically always spam it, except when there are no enemies. But I do actually gain rage when I use it when there are no enemies, and I gain the rage through the support gem of the Raging Cry, which gives me 4 rage per 5 power, meaning when there are bosses it actually gives you 16 rage, because they give you 20 power, and this requires 15, so that's why we can spam it without losing rage, which of course would be bad when we're fighting a boss. Damage in Hell of Ice. I do use Diala's Desire in Berserk because it gives that 10% quality of support skills, which is another, 6% increased effect of the Berserk, which is a lot to multiply the rage effect with. And then I use Herbalism. You can use whatever you want here, but I actually find that regenerating even more from your potion is really nice. This is a good backup for you're on low life and you don't have any glory skills to spend and nothing to leech from. Just like having that potion is great. All right, so the passive tree. We're Titan, and we effectively want a lot of stats, which is why our passives help so much. We also use armor and we use life. Don't use any of the fun stuff in here. Unfortunately, stunt build-up doesn't really matter for us, and neither do aftershocks. Maybe there could be something fun with ancestry boosting stuff, but mostly we just have the halting forms, as with any Titan, really. And we want a lot of stuff up in the intelligence side of the tree, and we really want to grab this crit right away, which is why we're kind of ignoring this first usual route, and we're going up here, grabbing crit, gaining a maximum rage while shapeshifting. Then we're grabbing blood magic as we want to spend life to fuel the surface infamy. AoE we get right here, doesn't require stunning anything like some of the other ones do, just kill stuff, gain AoE. Then this one, very important, the Craving Slaughter, plus 8 maximum rage, similar to the Hate Forge, as then you want to get the rage on hit, and then the Glory Generation. Then we gain crit and skill speed and extra damage while we're shapeshifted. We do that on weapon set 1, which is basically our damaging weapon set. Then we get the Ancient Aegis, it's very important because it gives us increased armor from the body armor. Kind of the same thing that we're doing here, increased armor from equipped body armor, and here more armor from equipped body armor is how we're getting so much armor. You can say if we take it off, we go down to like 61, put it on 82. So that is big. And then Ancient Aegis also gives us even more energy shield, so it's very nice. And then we path down, get a socket, and then on weapon set 1, gain Bestial Rage. Do note there are a few places where I don't kind of go into weapon sets here because we're basically running low on weapon set points, and then I just share the attribute pool is why. So what I didn't show here is that on weapon set 2 we're specifically using that for war cries, so you can see all of our that's actually something I need to change. All of our attacks should actually be on weapon set 1. Should be weapon set 1. Weapon set 1. Shred I already have on. Should be weapon set 1. Believe I did that at some point. Anyways, and then the war cries are weapon set 2. Meaning that whenever I'm attacking, let's see, we have weapon set 1, whenever we are doing a war cry, we go to weapon set 2. And here we're gaining different war cries, which makes it whenever each time you use a war cry recently, which is every 4 seconds for anyone who doesn't know, we gain 8% more damage. And well, we can, as I said earlier with a boss, if we shout like 8 times at 2 seconds, that's 8 times 8% more damage, that's 40% more damage just right there from that spam. So that's really nice. It also has a lower cooldown. It's fine. It's nice for the Lunar Blessing actually, because it usually has a cooldown of like 20%, meaning that if you use it while you don't have a lot of rage, you kind of have to wait a lot before you can use it again. Now with a lot of rage kind of generation and a low cooldown, don't have to be as careful with using it, which is nice. It's nice sometimes to use to clear rage so the Berserk doesn't kill you, and just kind of like, refresh it a bit more freely without having to care about exactly when you use the cooldown. Then we go up and get Warcry speed, very important, and then especially the Howling Beast critical weakness is an insane thing. Basically, whenever you Warcry, an enemy gets 1.5% increased chance to get crit, and that actually does scale with anything that has increased critical hit chance. So that combined with your big chances on you means you crit a lot, like a lot. All right, we'll look at the jewels later. We go down here and we grab more AoE, and then Tribal Fury we only have on weapon set 1, making our strikes deal splash damage, which is really nice for Lunar Assault as well as Shred. Then weapon set 2 we have Roaring Cries, and this is with the minimum power of 10, and that is the reason we can actually war cry and gain range from it, as long as we are not bypassing the cooldown, which of course then makes it so that we spend 15 rage. That's a really nice utility. You can just kind of use the war cry a bit more freely to gain rage, as well as debuff the enemies, buff yourself, gain glory for the skills that you need to use. Go down here and we grab all of the crit for weapon set 1, increased attack damage. This one is very important. I didn't have this for a long time because of the downsides that no one likes here, and don't really care about the stun build-up. However, what I found is that if you only have more damage, like more damage from supports, more damage from the Berserk, it's almost like that is not doing much. It kind of needs to be combined with some increases, which is why I ended up actually going into this. It's also a massive amount of damage, right? It's like 160%. Sorry, 110% just from those 4 points. Then on weapon set 2, we grab more good stuff here. Warcry cooldown, Warcry speed, and then these ones here, increased total power of counted by Warcries, actually means that when we use this Raging Cry next to bosses, rather than generating 16 rage from the 20 power that bosses have, we end up generating 21, which is 6 more than 15. I mean, you can just spam out Arctic How just to gain rage if you want so, and just to apply critical weakness and just make yourself do more damage. It's absolutely crazy. Then we go down here and we grab this thing that makes it so you deal more attack damage the more glory you spend. Whenever you just use one glorious attack, that's 50 glory, which gives you, well, 50% more increased attack damage. It caps at 60, sadly. Otherwise, we would have a ridiculous amount. There's a bit of glory generation coming from here as well as some attack damage. This here didn't find it mattering at all. It's like 1 glory every 2 seconds, and that becomes 2 per rare. Like, you're killing the rares and the unique, so like this does nothing for you. We go further down and we grab Warcry speed, cooldown, and recover 2% of maximum life whenever you use a Warcry. Basically, it's just another like regain life, which is really good against the Berserk again. We grab armor and armor as elemental damage right here, and go over and grab more maximum rage. Then I've allocated points into fast metabolism. I think that these are very much up to preference, and I'll talk in a second about what else you could use that for. Go down and grab the iron reflexes, take these gem enthusiast and the strength. Basically, we're a bit short on attributes. For a while I was running with the strength from here, which is the most strength for these points, and then you also get some damage, but not that much damage. We don't have that much strength. For a while I was taking beef, just to gain some more, and if you want even more strength, you can also like just get 10 more from these points and go to the socket, which you could do instead of the fast metabolism. But that 5% move speed as well as 5% maximum life is just, yeah, it's a lot. The movement speed actually does help out a lot in my opinion, so I would prioritize that, which is why I have also for one of the jewels gotten the From Nothing with Val Pact, and gotten Light on Your Feet and Momentum with more skill points. You can see I'm level 95, and I wouldn't mind level 100. That would be, like, every point does so much when you're a Titan, so I'm looking forward to 96. Movement speed is one option here, but I think the reduced slowing potency is also very useful. Like, basically you have nothing to counter against chilled ground right now, and chilled ground is a hassle, but the immune to hinder and maim are really good, and then the ignore movement penalties from armor just makes you go even faster. Then in this nice cluster here, usually we would I mean, I would love to run dear old Viper Cap constricting command, but as I said, it doesn't really work with just one glorious skill. It kind of removes the whole point of the Hate Forge, which can give us the, you know, the 100 more maximum rage. I found that I was able, with using Viper Cap when I tested that, I was able to get like 2 out of 5 stacks, which is 40 more maximum rage. It's not bad, but I don't know, wasn't unique enough. Didn't really utilize it fully. I felt like that wasn't the way to go. Otherwise, we would gain a massive buff here from our Against the Darkness time lost with maximalizing chaos. I think this is a bit up to you what you want to do. You could choose to get one with spirit maybe, but then you only have 2 notables. You can move some points around and then get 3-1. You can get extra damage if you want, but mostly have small passives here, so that is kind of what I'm gaining for it. Chaos resistance and maximum life. Maybe you want to use another Time Lost Ruby for other stats you find are better. There's no glory generation on Time Lost, unfortunately. on any jewels. Yeah, so that's what I found to be best. Lost 2 of the jewels. ATD, From Nothing, Controlled Metamorphosis with a medium small ring. Let's get 3 of the best defensive notables in the game for this build. Projectile Bulwark, 30% more armor, and that defend with 100% against projectiles. 30% more elemental to armor applies elemental damage, and then this bad boy of every rage also grants you 100 increased armor, so that's a nice 170% increased armor for us. You can run a From Nothing jewel on Blood Magic as well and get the exact same outcome as this, but then you won't have access to the movement speed here. Bit up to preference. And lastly, I have a Heart of the Well with movement speed, CDR, and rage and melee hit. This one could be changed with a Megalomaniac. You could also get a Megalomaniac with some of the notables that you want up here. I think my dream scenario would be to get a Megalomaniac with probably fast metabolism and then either Invigorating Grandeur, Bestial Rage would be really good as well, as I wouldn't really have to spend all these points, although I do want this socket. But yeah, like you can save some points by getting a Megalomaniac with the right notables, but they're all quite expensive, at least for my case. So I skipped that for now and just went with a fast metabolism, but I'm kind of going back and forth on it. The instant leech I think is the most important thing to get on the Heartland Well. I think that helps a lot when you are leeching the energy shield as well. Rage and melee hit is nice, movement speed is nice, CDR is nice. I actually bought this jewel originally when I was testing out this build with only using 2 glory spinders. So I used to actually path all the way down here, grab this socket, spend points here on getting even more cooldown reduction and then even more cooldown reduction over here. And I think I ended up being able to use pounds every 1.8 or like 7-6 seconds, and then cross slash. I might return and try that because I wasn't trying out the Arctic Howl kind of spamming previously. Maybe that works again. But I think the reason why I ended up going with Lunar Assault is because it has no cooldown. Like you can spam stuff and you can always just kind of use this. And there's a lot of points spent on getting this cooldown, which, yeah, as you can see, we need a lot of stuff. Like there's so many stats that we need, and I would like to have 20 more levels if it was possible. Yeah, but the leech definitely helps, the instant leech from the Heart of the Well. I even for a while was using Wild Pact, which was really good for the leech. And then my tree kind of looked completely different, but not having that potion was a big downside, and I was also spending a lot of points on getting there. Essentially, I used to path up here and grab the Invigorating Grandeur, which is a must-have for this build, and then as well as this like 45% extra glory generation. And I can definitely feel right now that I don't have it, but ultimately it just means, you know, spam your abilities more, especially the Howl while you're using Shred, and then it's not really a problem. It's just that having more glory generation, you definitely can feel makes it easier to play the build. It is one of the reasons why I'm pathing here. I can probably get more values somewhere. Like I would really like to get this AoE as well. Like those are the things that I'm right now battling. Like, do I want to get fast metabolism, more AoE, another socket with a Megalomaniac, or glory generation is kind of the things that I'm juggling. I could also gain more armor, but I don't think it's needed. Like there's no point getting to that 50k armor. Yeah, so that's the build. Was there anything else that I have forgot to mention? Well, for upgrades, there's a lot of options. One thing is just getting a better weapon. As I said, I have no crit. I have pretty low damages in this. Sure, I have T1 Fizz and then T2 attack speed, but it's like T3 increased physical damage. I'm missing just a much better weapon. Better rings. I don't even have quality on these. Can get better stats. Better boots. I would probably like getting 3 sockets on these boots would mean I can suck in 2 of the slow potency reduction, which is really good against the temporal bubbles from rares as well as chilled grounds. So that would be really big. And then on the H Forged, I actually think that I would prefer getting rid of the gain a random charge and reaching maximum rage. And swap that for another 10 maximum rage as you can get. It can reduce your maximum rage by 10 or add another 10, and I wouldn't mind another 10. Basically, like whether we're losing 17% damage or max life per second or 20 doesn't really matter. It's like I think probably in terms of game feel, I wouldn't want it much over 20. Like 25 takes you to 4 seconds rather than 5, and which is a massive difference. So yeah, 20 probably max, so more max rage, yay. And the charge we can talk a bit about actually, because one thing I did explore is that there's this cool new cultivation you can do with a serpent's egg, where it gives you a chance to get an additional random charge when you gain a charge, and you already have gained additional charge when you gain a charge. So I think with that we wouldn't have to run the armor breaking to gain endurance charges, and I wouldn't rely on the weird combo that I'm not even using right now of culmination and A-lift chimes. But I think it's a lot to give up. I might try it out for funsies at one point. But yeah, like in that case I would keep the gain a random charge and then combine it with a serpent's egg. But right now I feel like getting charges from other sources is more reliable, even though I do have a bit too many. And then just swapping that for max rage, but it's a bit of stuff to play with. Yeah, weapon, H Forged. Yeah, the amulet. There's actually a suffix on the amulet that I played with, and I tried crafting an amulet that I think could be a big upgrade. Where did I put that amulet? Is it in here? Amulet. Yeah, you can see here I'm trying to make some serpent's eggs. Oh wait, I'm trying to sell it this one. This amulet here. 25% chance for skills to retain 40% of their glory use. It can go up to 30. This amulet has mana. Unfortunately, no chaos resistance is the main reason I'm not using it. Even the attributes, like I would like to have some rarity on this build, but there's just no room for it. Like, not unless I was richer. But yeah, I think the suffix could be massive to have on this amulet. Might not be needed. Might feel really good. It's cool. It's the main reason. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for upgrades. This could be corrupted another time for another socket, of which we could gain the socket that gives 4 more maximum rage. We like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Something I haven't tested yet, but that I did consider was actually, because I'm using unset rings, we could use the bursting decay ring, which yeah, is gonna make me lose another 5% maximum life per second. But it's also gonna give me up to 4 with a corruption at 4% of my maximum life. So of 3,000 lives, that's like 120 more physical damage. Might be a lot of damage, might not be worth doing, but definitely something that could be considered. Then the rest of it kind of becomes skill gems. As I said, we can do 2 more Garakon's Resolve. We can put 3 Rakiatas in. I can put 3 Dialas into the different, like I can put this down here, right? And now we're gaining just a bit more defenses and a bit more critical hit chance. Put it down here, or here, and now we're getting even more life. Like, yeah, we could do more Dialas. We can do the Uthrits, the ones that give you +3 to all skills. Well, I can have 3 of each of them because I have the Solar Sip. So that, I think, like a weapon, skill gems, rings, changing the H Forge, doing the amulet, better boots. It's kind of the upgrades we're looking at. And then what are some of the stuff that I tried that I think could be worth talking about for anyone who's interested about a bit of the process that I looked at. I talked about the cooldown reduction. For a while I also, other than the Viper cap, I was testing Crown of Ice to then get Mystical Rage, and with 170 rage or max rage we would get like 300% spell damage, and then that 300% spell damage would translate into attack damage. And I think that could be amazing. I actually think that this build would be really, really good on an Oracle. Really good. Exactly what I would sacrifice, I'm not sure. Maybe some of the attack damage, maybe some crit chance. But essentially, I did test that cast on crit, and the life cost from the spells triggered there actually feeds into the glory for the Surface Infamy. And so I think that you could maybe have Crown of Ice instead of Solo Zips, spam Shred, Warcries, and Lunar Assault to spend life and attack, and then maybe you could even just Shred and crit, and that's gonna feed into cast and crit, and the cast and crit is gonna spend life, and then that's gonna fuel the one skill that you choose, which could be Lunar Assault or Pounce for Surface Infamy, and then yeah, I think that could be like an infinite loop almost. That would be really good, and then I would use Crown of Ice instead of Soul's Ips, and a lot of things would look different, but I think that's a variation of this build that could be very solid. I tried the Demon Talisman for quite a bit of time. This little thing that turns you into a demon. I basically didn't do that. I stayed a wolf because of the mark, as I mentioned previously. But it has this nice thing of enemies in your presence are at exposure, which is good with all the cold damage. It converts bear skills. Well, I wasn't a bear, so I didn't care. And then skills which require glory generate 6 glory every 2 seconds. 2 seconds is a lot though, when this stupid buff only lasts 6 seconds. I think like if GGG changed that to even just 8 seconds, it would be a lot better. 7 seconds maybe. Like it's rough to play with. There's not a lot of options with it. But then again, like 100% or 100 more maximum rage is also insane. So maybe it is as it should be, but it takes away a lot of options when it is that short of duration. This was nice though. Like I put this on, and you just see my my glory skills, doop, like every 2 seconds, get a good amount, and I had even more glory generation. So it is kind of nice like that. And now that I can use them, you can see that like when I then spending, then it's also doing it. I could even Warcry at the same time. It feels pretty good, but you're losing a lot from not using this. Like flammability is whatever. Maybe there's a demon version of this build. Maybe there's a bear version of this build. That could very well be. I wanted to use Pounce and cold damage, so I'm a wolf, like all the cool kids. Nothing unique to see here. But yeah, that's something I considered. I talked about only using 2 skills with cooldown reduction. For a while I was actually using weapon set 1 for bossing and weapon set 2 for for mapping and weapon set 2 for bossing, where the main differentiator was the crit damage. But I found that having to have 2 different shreds was really annoying, and it was before I knew of all of the tech from using the Warcries, which is really good, really good, like insane actually. The critical weakness and the different cries could not be understated, and then just like all of the other things from the Warcries. You don't get the empowers a lot because you're killing things instead of freezing them, but the way that you're gaining rage, gaining glory, buffing yourself, debuffing enemies is just like really good. But I was trying that, didn't like it that much. In the beginning I was considering mace skills, as that's what I'm most comfortable with, but the truth is that you need to invest a lot of points into getting good speed with the skills, and all our sweaty juicers like speed, so it was much easier to go into Wolf, which have a lot of, attack speed, 200 of base, Lunar Assault, 110 of base, Cross Slash, 110 of base, a lot better than any of the mace skills. Yeah, So that's why I didn't go with Mace. I know that Miso Exiro is doing something, maybe not with the H-Force right now, but at least with the Seraphis Infamy, and then doing cooldown, no, not cooldown reduction, what's it called? Skill effect duration reduction, in order to use Hammer of the Gods a lot. That could be something like if you're able to spam Hammer of the Gods, then maybe you only need one skill, the one spender, and not 3 to actually stack this. So I'm curious to see how that build turns out, if it's something that could be a variation of this H-Forge backstraight stacking build. But I didn't want to use staffs. Then quarterstaff skills I also considered, because they actually have one that applies a mark, and all of those are strikes and can actually be comboed with the ancestral boost. Wow, this guy from Rabbit skill just dropped a mirror. Big. Congrats, man. Yeah, so quarterstaff, I think there could be some stuff as well, but most, again, like lower speed on the attacks, and the best attack right now for clearing is the Whirling Assault, and that one has a large cooldown, so it kind of didn't work really well with the H-Forge, is why I didn't go with that either. Then crossbows, so crossbows I actually thought would be a huge potential, and the gain 6 rage and hit here would work on that, but the problem is that crossbow skills, whenever you socket the Seraphis Infamy into it, basically requires the glory both for swapping the ammo and doing any of the attacks, and that breaks the idea totally. Otherwise it would actually be possible to run that combo with the Last Lament, which just requires you to sacrifice life to not do any consumption of like bolts, but yeah, and you know, you would out heal that with the Invigorating Grin Duo as well, but not possible because the reload requires you to spend glory, so yay. I wanted to put Azu's Bloodletting into Lunar Blessing, but it's not doing anything. Like, it literally is giving me 0 damage for whatever reason that I don't understand. Maybe someone in the comments can tell me why I don't understand damage in this game, but like, costs 400 life. That should mean that I gain, is that 20% or something? Like, I should gain up to the 40% at least per life cost, and I'm not getting anything from this whatsoever. So, Buck, I don't know, but I'm using it Lunar Assault. I talked about Serpent's Egg. I talked about, right, so some gems that I also tried out that could be useful are the Undying Jewels and their keystones you get from there. Sacrifice of Blood I tried because, well, regen battles the Berserk loss, but it's basically useless. It's not enough. So it was mostly for the 20% more life cost of skills, but I just found it to not be worth it. Using skills faster was a lot better than skills that was slow and cost a lot more life. But then Sacrifice of Flesh is a really good defensive that if I could fit it in, I wouldn't mind so. I could actually, if I gave out fast metabolism and got 1, 2, 3, 4 more levels, I would be able to place that one in here and gain the Sacrifice of Flesh here, which is kind of a scuffed version of the Defiance of Destiny amulet. That would be a really, really good defensive layer. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I've been talking for a long time now, so that's gonna be the showcase that I did. It's a one take. Hopefully it makes sense. Feel free to ask any questions in the Rabbit's Discord if you're in there. I don't imagine this video will get a lot of views anyway. I don't really care if you like or subscribe. This is mostly for myself, not so much for trying to make a YouTube channel or anything. Yeah, I will make a written guide, as I think this could inspire a lot of other builds, and I'm excited to see what you guys think about the idea of it. Have a great January, everyone, and I hope you have a good time in this second wind private league. I'm looking forward to watching the shenanigans and maybe playing along myself even. Right, stay safe, bye.